Hey, how's it going? I'm gonna let you look at my signs. So I just tried to do this, and I was mid-sentence, and my camera just shut off. The phone is charged. There's like a gazillion gigs on the SD card, and I don't know. That I'm I'm a little annoyed now. So let me start all over. I have been feeling like very conscious of what I say, the effect of what I say after it leaves my face. And so, that in mind, I've kind of been doing my best to be more conscious of, by commenting at all, because I will reiterate again that I had a mother that was sarcastic and had a dry wit, and I inherited the sarcasm for sure. The wit, it's there. So, and then, from an early age, I was in this environment that, like, if you weren't, like, you need to catch up. And I am not, like, quick compared to, like, compared to most people. It usually takes me, like, a couple of seconds to catch up for some reason. Not always, but sometimes. But anyway, I also grew up with, like, very quick-witted, mean, sarcastic, funny kids, where a lot of times they could be devastatingly hurtful, but at the same time you're like, that was good. How can I really get mad at that? So, it's not like the best way to be all the time, and like I'm at this point where I'm like, is there any really use in it at all? Like, scoring points off people, and more I'm feeling like, no, it's not really worth much. Like, what the heck's it doing for anybody, really? So, I'm, I guess, moving out of that sort of state of mind, whatever. So, earlier I was on the YouTube and the Blue Sky, and they both have comment sections, and this person that I am, that is evolving, always has something to say. And probably I could do with a whole lot less of that. Probably everyone else could. From everybody, really. But I have... See, you look at something, or you read something, or you listen to something, and it invokes a reaction. And then since there's a comment section that's inviting you to share what the reaction is in your words. And so I like to try to keep it to the complimentary, which is the safe zone. But sometimes you have the reaction and you want to say something. And so I was just saying that when I got cut off, that I had to correct myself, because I started to say I want to go on there and react. Well, I started to say react, and then I tried to edit it to respond, but no, the first one was correct. I mean, to react is a response, but that's not what I was saying or doing. So, as I was doing that, I was, like, aware of the difference, and really have been thoughtful about what I'm going to say in response. And there's always an element of, like, expressing what I'm feeling, but also saying it in such a way that it's, like, amusing and interesting for someone to read. And hopefully you find people of a like mind that way, or you don't offend someone who isn't. Like, I feel like that's my goal. And then sometimes, like, when I write, like, for here, or something that I publish on WordPress, that's when I'm having, like, a co-creation situation with Spirit, where it's like, the topic comes up and I open myself to their help with writing it, and then they facilitate me to word things, I guess. So that's a co-creation. So it's not entirely me acting alone, I don't feel like. And so, I think I did okay with whatever I said, but I was just so conscious of it because the other thing is what I'm looking at that is invoking all of this response is like rabbit hole stuff. But the thing about it is, like, I started paying attention to things like that because when you first started hearing about QAnon, the main thing was, they're crazy people or they're, conspiracy theorists. And I was like, well, I wasn't like, oh, they're bad, stay away. I was certainly cognizant of that feeling, but I was also like, well, what's the supposed conspiracy about? Like, I was already skeptical that it was, I don't know, like they made such a big fat deal. I was like, well, what is it? What's it about? So I ended up meeting a bunch of them on Twitter way back when, before Trump was elected the first time. And I don't think that MAGA yet was a thing yet, but there were definitely people that became MAGA, like the proto-MAGA people. And so, I communicated with them for maybe around a year, like every day, quite a bit, like all hours of day and night, because I, at least, because of my health, am mostly just home and can do that. So through them, I learned the existence of a lot of things, a lot of rabbit hole stuff. But it wasn't like so shocking to me because I guess I was already kind of a seeker of that kind of information because of things like JFK's demise and the controversy around that, and just like a lot of like disasters that could have been averted by the government, but it seems like they just kind of let it go for money. And then there was like kind of a, what do you call it? During the time that I was communicating with those people before it ended, which oddly enough was not to do with Trump, because they knew I was not at all into Trump and that they were totally into him and thought he was dandy. But I was older than most of them, and so I remember how I learned of him in the first place in the 70s. It was him and his father not wanting to rent to black people. So being a black people, of course, I'm going to remember that. And also at the time I had to do a current events report for school, which meant you had to find some news item in the paper and write about it. And so that's what I picked. So I already was familiar with Trump's. And, I didn't go on about it and, put them down for their choice. I was just like, I don't think he's a good guy, Or actually, I think what I said was I think he's a bad guy. And really, I didn't encounter a lot of discussion about him personally. It was a lot of sort of stuff that we have called conspiracy stuff or unproven stuff that's like sort of hard to define truth from, because it's like UFO stuff, and then what the government is telling you, and then what the military people are like leaking or talking about, because most of the people that I was talking to were active and retired and standby or whatever. I mean, I don't know, they were mostly military people or contractors or something, like vets that were contractors. And they seem to be like pretty familiar with like Q. But, it's weird because I've since learned that Q was essentially Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. So a lot of stuff like that I was learning of then that people had opinions about one way or the other, I was just kind of like, I don't know really like what this is about quite yet, but something stinks. And now, like, well, however many years later in the second term, there's been all of this stuff come out, and the e-files, and just the way that is so connected to almost everything else you're going to encounter as an American in your life. And the connection is so disgusting and gross. And so I get to thinking, is that something that I should even be talking about? Like, the things that I've learned, I feel like, or the connections that I've made through what I've been learning, and what's developed from what I learned 10 years ago, or what I learned of 10 years ago, and now what they've turned into. Like, I just finished a video by this other YouTube creator his channel is called Echo TV or Echo, and he does rabbit hole stuff. So the episode today was talking about I'll link it, but it was talking about, no, I don't even want to talk about it, because I don't feel like, if I have license to talk about things with the co-creation, I don't want to like mess that up by sort of making all this other stuff my focus. Like, I want to be like, free to say this other stuff. So I'll leave it to other people, but knowing about it, I feel like if you can stand to know about it, someone should, because of the way things are directly in front of our face, and just as awful, like, people that you grew up loving and admiring, you might want to rethink that. You might find you want to rethink that. And reconciling how I feel about that, and how they exist in the same world, and it's a lot. It's a lot to consider. But I think I'm going to stick to this, is what I'm saying, as much as I can, and trying to keep my comments to myself. It's going to be hard. Okay, so I have yesterday and today cards from the Declarations of Mary Magdalene deck. And the first one is number 17. I'll add the 2 together, 1 and 7, and that makes an 8. I mentioned that because. But yeah, 8. I'm going to go with the strength. But also the infinity of it, if you tip it to the side. I always see as a meditation symbol, or not always, but something I started doing a long time ago to sort of regulate my breathing, was visualizing the infinity symbol, the 8 laid horizontal, and treating my breathing to regulate it as a roller coaster. So inhaling on the up, and then you can exhale on the down loop, but you got to start inhaling immediately again. And it's just an endless cycle, which breathing is anyway. But it was also something to like visualize, and sort of, I mean, after a while, I didn't need the visualization anymore. It became habit. So sometimes you want to break the habits, and sometimes you want to make new ones that you want to keep. Anyway, the card reads, "You are your own church, for your kingdom is within you." It's funny, this card keeps coming out on Sunday. So, in relation to what I was talking about, and like, I will still look at the stuff the rabbit hole stuff, because it's not just conspiracy and rabbit hole. That sort of stuff is sort of starting to weave together with what everybody thinks and believes of reality and the people populating it. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. But, while that's all going on outside of you, within you, you have the kingdom of, how do I even phrase this? Of creation. So, what's going on outside of us? And, like, you can see this with food now. Because food you used to be able to trust. It used to just be like what grew out of the earth, and then what ate what grew out of the earth, and that was it. And so you could just trust it. And now I feel like it's more chemical than food. Or the food is not it's not the food they say it is. It's this other replacement thing that they never even told you they were going to replace anything. And they don't tell you what they've replaced it with. And in this case, I'm thinking of tuna, where pretty big brands apparently are purchasing fish that's not tuna, that is rejected from another country because it's too toxic for human consumption. And that's okay with these people selling you the stuff. And so are you okay with that? I am not. That is terrible. And so we're discovering the food is bad for us. The food is becoming unsafe because of, like, bugs, and the regulations have gone so that it's like no one's really caring if the bugs are there. But, that's working against these people that are letting all of this happen, doing all this damage to their consumers out of, I don't know, some kind of spite. I don't know what the spite is about. And then profit. Like, we're gonna, like, mess up your health really bad. And then make a profit on top of it. That's not cool, man. I'm not a fan of that. But it is, in a way, forcing people to look to, like, natural food, like food that you go get yourself, and as unadulterated with as possible, unmolested as possible. And it's not always possible for people to go to a farmer's market where it's coming from a, like, local farm and not some jackass that went to the store like you and is selling you organic food that they got at Safeway for a really elevated price. That's a red flag right there. Like, they shouldn't be charging you a whole heck of a lot of money like that for farm fresh produce. But that used to be a thing that was true too, so I don't know, like, it's up to all of us to figure out where to go with this, but I feel like circumstances are forcing us into a lane, a funnel, a situation where either we got to learn how to eat completely unsafe food, like, adapt to it, which I don't know if I want to do that, or we got to start, like, making sure for our own selves that the food is fresh, unspoiled and real, and there's nothing weird in it that you didn't put there, because we got, like, a lot of environmental attacks upon us right now, and we got to fortify, and I feel worse for, like, kids and pets. Like, they also eat this stuff, and I feel terrible for my cat, because what is in the tuna cat food that he's eating? Is he eating poison food? I know that it doesn't agree with him all the time, and I've switched his foods, and he only likes certain things, and it's getting harder and harder to find things that he'll even eat. So that's a new place to be. And so here's the reason why I don't want to verbally or in the written form text be adding to that energy, the anger and resentment and the spite out of nowhere. Like, I don't understand when people are already getting everything out of you that they wanted, like, you know, out of like the American public. The they is always the nameless, faceless group, although some have names and faces that are doing things to harm the general public. But there are a lot of people sort of behind the scenes that you don't really get to know about unless you look, or even if you look, sometimes you don't get to know who people are that are driving things that are ultimately, well, it just seems like they're out to get you, you know? Like, they're like, let's see how sick we can make you. Let's see what kind of chemicals you can take until you keel over and croak. Like, I mean, I don't understand the logic otherwise. So, you know, how do you combat that? Well, like I'm saying, you gotta, like, go back to, as much as you possibly can, what's natural and verifiable and unadulterated. And that goes for information, too. I've seen lately that some foods, in particular, make children have, like, attention deficit and behavioral problems. And it's in the USDA. Okay. It's in everything. And so, just like with the little pets, the concentrations of the stuff going into the littler bodies is thought-provoking. And so, number 17, you need the strength that you can find within yourself. You know, you have to, like, replenish your soul, your body, your mind, and your soul, and you can do that safely by going within. And I know that before I got the hang of it, that was just words. Like, there was no understanding of like, I can talk about it like it's a place, but it really isn't in the way that you would think of a place normally. But what it is also a place where the where can be constructed by you, and I think it's not so important. Like, again, the structure is not the important thing. The experience within the structure being had is the important thing. It seems counterintuitive, but if you're quiet and you can either learn how to ignore the chatter in your mind or eliminate it completely, you will be able to have access to parts of yourself that can be more informative and fulfilling and nutritive to your soul, so that you can function out in the world where everything's kind of out to get you in a way, including other people, because just like I was talking about, like, not giving into the impulse of reacting to everything and having an opinion, which is basically a judgment, which there's so many reasons not to be throwing judgments around, mainly because if we have one and we feel the need to vocalize it, oh my gosh, there's probably something in your side of the mirror that's just as crappy. And We all do it. I mean, okay, I guess I can't say we all do it, but many of us do it. Even the best intentioned people, like, I feel like I have the best intentions, and yet I still partook in that. And it's crazy because all of the times where that was turned against me and I just hated it. It's like, why are you doing it? But my main concern now is that all of that is basically depositing it into like the collective consciousness, and I would rather deposit clean organic thoughts and gestures and actions into the collective than the alternative. The alternative is in spades. It needs no help. There's plenty. If anything, we gotta figure out how to make us and our lives a less hospitable place for that kind of thing. Take care of your evil and your bad intentions and your bottom of the rabbit hole selves out of here. Okay, next card is number 46. 4 and 6 adds up to 10. Take away the 0, and you got a 1, which is a master number. And master means exactly what it sounds like. You have mastered the fill in the blank. I suppose I could say more about that, but I'm sure you also could search if you want to know more. Anyway, this card reads, "Right from the heavens, and the heavens shall rejoice." So I saw this and I thought, that's kind of what I was talking about. And right from the heavens, I think means write your life, or paint on the canvas of your life, your highest vibrational life, like landscape, diagram, technical drawing, blueprint, or, statement, words that are coming out of your face. Just, I had a card the other day that was talking about when God looks at you. And this God is the wording on the card, and I know that triggers people that have some sort of religious thing, like atheists. They don't have religion, but it lives rent free in their heads. So, but yeah, it triggers people, and these are channeled messages from Mary Magdalene, who existed in the time when the religion that we have today did not exist. So I'm not talking about Catholic Church stuff, even though they kind of like have done things with her image that she would not possibly have done herself, put it that way. And so don't freak out when I say God, basically. But when God looks on you with favor, or notices you, basically, because God's got a lot on their, like, heavenly platter or whatever. Like, we're not the only game in town or in the universe or the galaxy, and so on and so on. So when we do good works, like when we're good to each other, basically, like, it ain't hard. You don't need a degree. It's real simple. Like, most of the people in Mary's time couldn't read. I don't even know if Mary could. I should look into that. Anyway, God is not going to be, like, congratulating you for doing crappy stuff. That's the interpretation I was getting. And I feel like that's kind of the same message here. Like, you got good things to say and you do good things for other people. It's not like you're doing it for any reward, but you will be rewarded. Like, if you donate to a cause, you will find a reciprocal benefit in your own life. Like, that's just the way it works, or at least that's how I've seen it happen. That's how I've heard a lot of other people talk about it, so I think it must be true. And it don't hurt to help other people. Like, you don't have to get anything out of it. There's also some of these that talk about, oh, this one might actually. So this one is, the number 33. So that's the master number for, well, it indicates an association with spirit. And it's also the year that Christ died. I don't like mentioning that part of it, but it's more for identification purposes than to dwell on any negative parts of that story. And really none of it is, but that's, oh my gosh, such a whole other, I'm not even going to try. Anyway, this card reads, as thou receives the love of God through kindness from another, thou too shall continue the cycle in the vibration of love, which continues elevated levels of light, love, and compassion within humanity with nothing expected in return. So the more you give it and you don't expect anything back, you're going to receive, whether you want it or not, you're going to receive blessings. It's not like that. That was a joke. But you will. and you know, that's another reason to not, for me personally, this is for me, I'm saying this for can I say for again? It's not even that I need some blessings. I have what I need. I have everything I need. That's it. I have everything I need. I'm good. And so now my impulse is to give, to serve in however I can. Like, and this is a part of it, 100%. I was sitting in here, and I thought it was hot, and I was, like, in the 90s, so I was or just 90. So I was kind of wondering, like, was my cat outside panting and panting? I just got this beautiful air conditioner, and I'm like, come in, come in. So anyway, I'm sitting here, and I'm thinking it's hot. Let me go see if he wants to come in. I go over there to the door and look outside. He's actually not out there, but there's a woman and some of the neighbor kids out there, and they have a glider plane that you throw, like a big, I think it was probably about 2.5 feet wide or whatever, and it had gone over the fence, and it was stuck in the top of a bush on the other side of the fence, and this woman was not even, I don't think, as tall as the top of the fence. So I open the door, and I have, you know, one of those old people grabber things with like a trigger handle, and then it has a extent. Well, it's one of these, actually. You probably know, but I'm just going to show it to you anyway. My friend got me a couple of these a long time ago, so I wouldn't try to hurt myself getting stuff. So one of these, right? And then, well, it's got a rubber band on it holding it shut. But anyway, I had one right there by the door. And I opened up the door, look around, don't see the cat, but I see them, and I'm all, hey, you want to use my grabber stick? And the woman's like, yeah. And she retrieved the plane, and it was all good. And so I put away my tool and came back in here, and it was just like, did I just go over there just to do that? Like, I literally thought that at the time, because I'm often thinking about how the way that, like, life just falls into place in the funniest little ways, and sometimes, or most of the time, we don't even see it happening, and it's like magical. Like, just think of the grand force that amidst everything else going on in the world, even just the other people in the near vicinity having similar little nothing seeming incidents happen, those happen all the time in the middle of that, and it's like perfect timing, you know? And all the other little words we have for serendipity. Anyway, I think I'm finished. Thank you and good night.